What's up, guys? If you were expecting a video about rooks, well, that would have been a really good guess. I almost made that video, but Sean actually asked a really good question about the fishing pole trap. So recently I did a video where I was talking a lot about pins on knight. So like if we had a bishop here pinning this knight, and I was kind of talking about the ways that white could respond. And anyway, the fishing pole trap is kind of related to that. So I wanted to go ahead and do this video. We're going to talk about what the fishing pole trap is. We're going to look at a couple of different variations that it can show up. And we're going to even talk about when there's a bishop instead of a knight here. But this is a very dangerous trap for both sides. You really need to understand what to look for. Otherwise, you can really get into trouble very quickly. So regardless of if you're defending against the fishing pole trap or you're trying to play the fishing pole trap, you need to understand these concepts. Let's jump right in. All right, so first of all, let's start with the kind of basic, sort of standard, most common version of the fishing pole trap that you will see. So we get a Ruy Lopez, and then this is the Berlin, where black doesn't play a6. They just immediately go for the development of the knight. And then castles, and the main line here is going to be knight takes e4, and then usually like d4 or rook e1 will happen. The knight will hop back, and there's been a lot of high-level games with that. But the fishing pole trap is where you play the move knight to g4. Now, it's maybe not the greatest move, but at the lower level, this is actually a very tricky move, because most people, when they see this, they're going to be like, okay, there's a knight in front of my king. Other than that, not really doing much. The queen can't come out because I've got it covered with my knight. So I'm going to play h3 and just make it move. And they think that, okay, you're going to go back, and they just basically got a free tempo, right? They got this move for free. You wasted a bunch of time. But the point behind this is that we're not going to move. We're going to play h5. And now white has to be careful, because if they take the knight, which is kind of the obvious logical move, like it's a pawn for a knight, they're just losing now because you've unleashed the rook. And really the important part about this that you need to remember is that not only are you unleashing the rook, the queen is ready to come in as well, right? Without the queen, this doesn't really make sense to do this. But white has to make a decision. Do they give you the piece back right away and still have a problem with their king? Or do they try to save their knight? And if they try to save their knight, it doesn't really matter. Let's say knight h2, knight e1, same thing. You're going to play queen h4. And they're getting checkmated somewhere here. There's not really any way they can stop it. They can try to move this pawn to escape. You just simply play g3. Takes away the king's escape route, and again, you still have the checkmate threat. And like I mentioned, it doesn't matter where the knight moves to. Knight e1, same thing is going to happen. Checkmate is coming, and again, on f3, you play g3. All right, so that's kind of the basic idea behind the fishing pole trap. So at this point, black's already way ahead. The best thing that white can do is just ignore this. Play something like c3 is what the engine is saying. Let you take it, and actually, the computer says not to even take it, just to keep developing your pieces like d6, get the bishop out. And because of this constant threat of checkmate, black is way better. Okay, so that's what's going on. So that's one version. Now let me show you a different version of the same trap. So here we go, e4, e5. This time white plays bishop c4. So instead of the Ruy Lopez, we get this move. Okay, knight f6, d3, bishop c5, knight f3. And knight to g4. So this is interesting because we're kind of transposing into the fishing pole trap through a sort of weird way, right? Black is just attacking the pawn, so white kind of has to castle to defend it. Develops, and now white plays h3 trying to kick the knight out, and here we are. You know what black is going to play, right? h5. Okay. This almost looks like a very similar position to what we saw before. Not almost, it is. It's a similar position, but there is a key difference. So I invite you to pause the video, think through what might be a key difference about this position than the one that we looked at previously. So as a reminder, this was the previous position, and now we're looking at this version. So go ahead and pause and think about that for a second. What's the key difference here? Well, if you've had a chance to do that, the key difference is that now if white takes, okay, we're going to take back. We're unleashing our rook. We're attacking the knight. Everything looks really good. The queen's ready to go. But white actually has this move, knight to g5. And the important thing about this move is that it stops our queen from going to h4. And this is huge because, like I said, if the queen is not involved, then it doesn't really make sense for us to give up a piece, right? Like we needed the queen to create that checkmate threat. That's the whole point. Well, because this pawn was on d3, you go back to this position, right? That wasn't an option because the bishop was blocked. But now, because it's on d3, knight to g5 is a move for white. And now white's completely winning. We don't actually have a good follow-up here. And also there's this threat we have to deal with at some point. And white might just take our pawn. And it's just not the same position, right? We need the queen to be able to go to h4 to create those checkmate threats. So this is kind of a failed attempt at the fishing pole trap because black wasn't paying attention to the fact that knight to g5 was a move. So this is a key difference you want to keep in mind. Make a mental note of like, is this an option for white? If so, most likely your attack is not going to be as good. All right, now I'm going to show you another version where we have a bishop on g4 instead of a knight. So let's take a look at this game. So e4, e5, here we go. It's another Ruy Lopez. This is actually the main line, a6, and then normally white will retreat, but in this case they decided to take. And remember, this is a trap. You don't want to take that because queen d4 forks the pieces. So white wisely castles. All right, now we have bishop g4, and here we go, h3. So you're seeing the same kind of idea. We have a piece here. In this case, it's a bishop which is pinning the knight, and again, common response is white tries to kick that away with h3. Now, one option, you could just retreat. Just go to h5, keep the pin. White probably doesn't want to play g4 and open up their king, so that's a totally fine option. But in this game, black played h5, and we have the same kind of idea, right? If white takes, they are now going to be in big trouble because we can recapture. This is not an option, right? Because the bishop is blocked. And again, white has the problem of they're just getting mated, okay? So, you know, with the video that I did previously, let me just flip this around, where I talked about how to respond when someone pins your knights. I gave this as an option. You can kick the bishop away. I didn't talk about this fishing pole trap. So that's kind of what the question was that Sean asked, and that's why I wanted to do this video. So here we go. This is looking at it from white's perspective. Remember, you don't want to take that bishop. Usually the way to respond to this is just to wait. Just to keep developing pieces. So let's turn on Stockfish here. Actually, yeah, just d3 is a good move. So now we're controlling this square. So we have knight g5 as an option in the future. And so, for example, let's just say black played something like bishop c5. Now, if you wanted to, you could get away with taking it. Because now, takes, you have the move knight to g5, right? It's defended by the bishop. It blocks off the queen. And it's not so easy for black to come over here and checkmate you. Now, they could try something like queen d6, trying to come over here. But then you have queen takes g4, and if they go queen h6, it doesn't actually work. You're in time to play queen h3, block off the queen, and you're actually just winning. So this is the kind of a key point that you want to remember with this fishing pole trap. If you can play knight to g5 because it's defended by the bishop, you're probably going to be in good shape. If you can't, going back here, don't take the bishop or the knight, whatever the case may be, because you're going to get mated probably from the queen, or in worst case, black's still going to win their piece back, and it's just not going to be a pleasant game for you. Okay, so those are the key factors with the fishing pole trap. Other than that, I don't really think there's too much else to say. Like I said, the best thing to do is if someone does this to you is just keep the tension, continue developing, and at some point in the future, when you feel like you're ready to respond to that queen h4 checkmate idea, that's when you can consider taking the bishop. In this example, it was because we could play knight to g5. Maybe there could be some other version. So let's just talk about that for a second. So you play d3 and black plays maybe bishop e7. Well, again, now I'm ready to probably take the bishop, because after takes, I'm going to just move my knight somewhere, and there's no queen h4 because black sort of messed that up by playing bishop e7, right? So that's the key thing. If the queen can come to h4, don't take the piece here. Otherwise, you're probably okay. All right, guys, so hopefully that helps you understand the fishing pole trap a little bit better if you're trying to do it as black, or if you're trying to defend against it as white. Hopefully that gave you some things to think about. As always, if I missed something, let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.